All right, welcome back everyone after that short break. I'm going to start with the first presentation for this session, and the speaker will be Satwik Dutta, who will be presenting his work. Can smartphones be a cost-effective alternative to LENA for early childhood language intervention?
Thanks, Anurag. So hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on planet. I'm a PhD student at the University of Texas at Dallas, and so happy to present my work in collaboration with our collaborators from Juniper Garden Students Project. So let's get started. So what is early childhood language intervention? Early childhood kind of summarizes studies in developmental science from birth till 8 years. And these first few years for a child are very, very critical for their overall development, not just limited to their speech or language development, right? However, research studies suggest that limited exposure to rich and engaging language environments can have a negative impact on children's language growth. And delays in early language acquisition can have several outcomes, like greater need for special education services, lower probability of graduating from high school, and as well as fewer employment opportunities later on in their career. However, early language delays can be mitigated through early intervention, and that kind of summarizes early childhood language intervention. Various neurological and socio-behavioral studies of child development have summarized that language-rich home environments have helped to boost children's language growth. Okay, now let's talk about LENA. So LENA, termed as language environmental analysis, is extensively used in early childhood research as well as a lot of school districts. And it has helped to boost positive interactions between children and caregivers, give parents immediate and frequent data about daily interactions. It's mobile, it's lightweight, it's easy to use and durable as well. However, LENA was originally conceived as a tool to benefit low-income families, but LENA's cost is prohibitive for most families to use. The reason here is it needs mandatory use of their proprietary digital recorder, which you can see on the screen to capture the audio that is processed by their speech processing software. A point which I want to make here is LENA Foundation has made sustained efforts to make their technology available to the community, but at little or no cost. But there are still many who are out of reach within the US and across the world. Also, a lot has changed since LENA's development over 12 years ago in the audio and speech processing technology. For our study, we are only considering LENA as an audio recording device. We only use the audio from the LENA device. We do not use their proprietary software. Okay, now, why smartphones? Smartphones, we all are aware, have very advanced audio recording hardware right now. Also, Pew Research Center, which is like a think tank for US and the world, a nonprofit, has summarized in their studies that 85% of Americans report that they own a smartphone, 75 of those earning less than $30,000 per year. Also, 85% of Latinx individuals and 83% of African-American families own a smartphone. So using a smartphone can help reduce costs, both from the research perspective and from the school district's perspective, right? And improve the feasibility and help in increasing the accessibility of this technology for families with more diverse and economic backgrounds, right? So the overall purpose of our study is to examine the technical properties of audio recorded by parents with a LENA digital recorder to the same audio recorded by the parents using their personal smartphones, whatever they have at their home, right? And the motivation, as I stated, to explore a low-cost alternative to LENA for early childhood language intervention that may help to reduce the need for additional hardware and make it accessible to more families. Now, our goal is not to replace LENA, but to use smartphones when LENA is not available or within your budget. So as you all might be aware, over the last 2 years, due to the pandemic, a lot of institutional review boards halted human subjects research, but last year, kind of with rolling out of the vaccines, we tried to work out something called unsupervised data collection scenarios at homes with consented families. And we were trying to collect audio recording of book reading activities done by parents sitting with their children using LENA and the parents' smartphone, whatever they have at their hand with them. And we expected that each of the families will read kind of 10 books. These books are appropriate for ages 3 to 8 and chosen by early childhood researchers. And most of the books were STEM focused, if you can see some of the examples on the screen here. Now, I just wanted to highlight the data collection protocol here that we went through and got it approved through IRB. So first, we will sanitize the LENA and the books for a new family, and then we will drop off the materials outside the family's home. The third step will include a virtual information session where we will sit down with the parent, and discuss, tell them how to use the LENA device, and also how do we want them to collect the data, and how to upload, the data that they collect using their smartphones into a secure server. The next step was for the parents to do the most of the task is to sit and record book reading activities with the child. Our focus group is preschool children. So we kind of focus in the age group 3 to 8 years in this range. And I think you all might be aware that this age group has very limited attention span. So the chances that they will sit with you throughout a book reading, at least reading a single book, is very limited. They'll just go around, and when they see some devices, they get very excited. So they will kind of barge in and, walk away and, try to play with the device. So the next step, of course, includes for the parents to upload or share smartphone recordings with us to a secure server. Now, I think using smartphones also has another benefit and gives parents more flexibility that if there is some data they don't want to share with us, they have that privilege. They just won't upload that or share with the researchers. And of course, we will bring back the LENA and the books from the parents outside their home and then recycle it through more families, right? At least for this study, we were able to complete collection and transcription for 3 families. You can see the age group is in the preschool range, the location, and total kind of 10 hours across 3 families. And I also present the word count here. I think it's very important. And you can see the parents were expected to read the books, right? So the word count of the adults is much more as compared to the children, but children would have questions or comments. And that is also what we want to capture and very important for our project. Okay. Now, there are various challenges with this unsupervised data collection, and we have to do some pre-processing. The major challenge that we faced was recording from 2 devices, right? We're not always in sync. Why? The parents were responsible for starting and stopping these audio recordings manually, right? And there were 2 devices, and then they unevenly paused and resumed the recordings midway through a recording. That kind of created a lot of sync issues. So what we had to do is dive into manual synchronization of the audio. So we kind of try to use Audacity and open source toolkit to detect these errors. Resync by cropping out portions of the audio which was not found in either of the recordings. And then similarly, we had to trim the transcript files to match the newly synced LENA and smartphone recordings. The last point I want to mention here is the LENA all records at a sample rate of 16 kilohertz, while smartphones capture at a much higher sampling frequency. So all smartphone recordings were downsampled to 16 kilohertz, and I think most of the speech processing systems also use downsampled audio, right? Okay. Oh. Okay. Yeah. One of the first properties that we want to check is, okay, the data that we are collecting, how does the quality look like? Okay, so we directly went and tried the NIST STNR, which was developed during the DARPA RATS program. and it measures speech signal to background noise level, and it's based on GMM. Basically, it will have two Gaussians, one for noise, one for the speech, and that's how it measures. For reliable speech processing, we would expect the audios to have more than 8 dB SDNR. And the NIST SDNR code is open source, available on their website. But however, this was last modified in 2014, and there has been a lot of changes in MATLAB overall. And so we had to do a lot of modifications to make it work for 2019 version of MATLAB, right? A lot of changes in the function classes, but somehow it worked. So we are happy. Here, kind of show how does the SDNR values compare across each of the families for two devices, right? And I'll take some time to go through the plots. These are box plots, which kind of show the range where the SDNR stands, and the red line that you see is the 8 dB SDNR. We would expect most of the recordings to be above this. And you can see that most of the recordings are probably in a very good SDNR range. A sequence or a trend that you will notice here is the LENA recordings tend to have a higher range of SDNR as compared to the smartphones. The smartphone recordings that I use here are the downsampled ones. Based on some of the experiments which I did, when I tried to compare the actual smartphone recordings and the downsampled ones kind to show a lower trend. So that may be one of the reasons why the smartphone recordings show a slightly less SDNR values. And specifically for the third family, if you see the SDNR values are all over the place, and also some are very less. One of the reasons is the third family was having a lot of challenges with data recording. They had less data, of course, but something that was prominent is there was a dog continuously whining, and a lot of these families, they are single parents. So you have a dog, a child, and two recording devices, so very difficult to manage. So overall, there are various other factors that can impact the quality of the audio, like room acoustics, appliances in the kitchen, and distance from recording devices, as well as the orientation of the devices, right? And something that I want to summarize here is, if smartphones are used in future by parents to record or guardians to record, we do expect that such factors will prevail and might not be at the hands of either the researchers or the parents or guardians to amend, right? So that kind of summarizes the slide. Heading on to the next phase is, of course, the next part component that comes here for us to understand is, okay, we have the speech, we have a good quality speech. Now, can we get the text, right? From that, where we will derive the feedback to the parents or teachers, right? So for this study, I just used an open source ASR model from Hugging Face. This model was trained using LibriSpeech data. I think most of you should be aware of using LibriSpeech. It's adults reading audiobooks in English. And this was trained using the SpeechBrain toolkit, kind of very new for end-to-end models. The language model was RNN-based. The acoustic model was CNN, bidirectional LSTM. DNN encode is followed by CDC and attention decoders. Now, I don't go too much into the model here, but to kind of show you some numbers, how for every family and each device, there are various word error rates. But before I dive into these numbers, I just want to make a point here that the book reading activity was not used for training. We didn't fine tune the model using our data, as well as the total recording time was 10 hours, but there is also a lot of silence. So it's not 10 hours of speech as a whole, right? And then the numbers that I show here is just for the testing on the data that we have collected. And I also try to show how does the word error rates look like for the adult utterances, or just the adults part of the speech, and also for the children, and something that includes both. Based on the numbers that you see for the adult word error rate and the child word error rate, you can somehow understand that the adults kind of fall between 25 to 40% water rate, while the children kind of shoot up to 90%, which is not surprising because, adult ASR system does not always effectively work for children. But going back to the numbers here for both, there are 2 points. First is we want to see if there is a consistency across both the devices, and second is, the errors. The numbers are fine, but what sort of errors are both the devices getting? The same type of errors, because that might be interesting to look at. And based on some of the experiments that I did, we are very interested in verbs, WH words, which are kind of language learning milestones for children. But the errors are consistent across both the devices along with the water rate. So this kind of goes to our goal, what we want to achieve, right? The next thing here is, of course, adult speech recognition system always doesn't work for young children. So you need custom models for children, right? Both the acoustic language model and the lexicon, everything needs to be fine-tuned for smaller children. And we know that adults have well-developed speech articulation, knowledge of grammar, already developed motor skills, as well as for children, they have very high spectral and temporal variability, developing knowledge of grammar, and as well as they're still developing their articulation skills, right? So here, we also tried on child ASR. Now, I'm not going to the details of the ASR model. I have put in my interspeech paper, which kind of explores more on why did I use a language model and why the acoustic model and the components here. But one of the models which I tried for this project used 2 data sets, the OGI Kids Corpora and CMU Kids Corpora from LDC. And then we have an in-house corpora of preschool children speech captured using LENA in smart classrooms, but it also includes children with and without speech and language delays. At the bottom, I kind of show you how does the number look like the previous adult ASR that we had and the child ASR that we kind of find, we came up with a custom child ASR. The results are not so good. It's still very high, but you can see a drastic shift in the water rate, right? And I think OGI and CME are mostly prompted speech. It's like you have a script, but the spontaneous part has made some contributions, but still it's not so good. Overall, developing ASR systems for spontaneous children's speech is very challenging, especially for younger children close to kindergarten age. And then even recent research using hybrid ASR for children have reported very high water rates for both prompted and spontaneous kindergarten age children. Therefore, our results are not so surprising, but we still see an overall consistency across devices, and we'll still keep on working on improving the water rate here. There were various.
So Satwik, we're in the last couple of minutes, just a heads up, including questions.
Yeah, I'm in the last minute. Yes. The various limitations of the study, the number of families, we only kind of explored American English speakers. We should explore variety of smartphones, which we are doing now. Also, the exact model of the device is important. The orientation and the position of the devices where the parents keep is also important. And recording in a variety of settings beyond your home in community settings is also important, which we are also exploring right now. I just wanted to highlight kind of contributions from the speech community here. Will be very fast. Like Soapbox Labs, they have contribution into Speech 2020 on fluency assessment platform. Then Renaissance Learning and Lelilo, they are trying to do ASR and for reading mistake detection. Everything is using smart devices, right? And we also have another project with Cali Center for Communication Disorders Speakeasy app, kind of speech screening for children. So the motive for showing this slide is smartphones can be really helpful and people are using it, right? Overall, this was an exploratory study, and preliminary findings suggest that, yes, modern hardware can help to monitor parent and child interactions in naturalistic settings, and future work will focus on exploring more diverse population and diverse range of smartphones. And having collected enough data, we leverage advanced learning methods and both hybrid and end-to-end ASR models for adults and children. We would like to thank all the families and National Science Foundation for the support of this project. And thank you, and open for questions if we have bandwidth.
All right, thank you. So unfortunately, we don't have time for questions right now.
That's fine. I can take any questions later on.
That was a great presentation.